The North is top, and the rest of us are on the bottom. And we all get stuck in that same framing that we're developing, emerging, something is lacking. And this is all a fallacy. In my opinion, all of these words are being used to keep these markets where people want them. I mean, let's be honest. I could also show you the same in Europe. It's just that we don't talk about that. We call them growth markets.
Growth markets.
Here's the reality. The majority of the world's GDP growth is happening outside of advanced economies, which are relatively stagnant.
Welcome back to Wise on Air, the show where we talk to the world's leading minds on the future of education. My name is Bassem Hijazi, producer of the show. Who you just heard was Dina Sherif, Executive Director of the MIT Kuo Sharper Center for Prosperity and Entrepreneurship, challenging how we think about global development. Over the next decade, 1.2 billion young people will enter the workforce across what we commonly call developing markets. How these economies harness this demographic dividend could reshape global prosperity. For over 6 years, Dina has been transforming MIT's approach to entrepreneurship education, expanding from a campus-based program to a global platform working across Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. Her mission is ambitious. Use entrepreneurship and innovation as core strategies for achieving sustainable prosperity that breaks the cycle of aid dependency. Let's join WISE Director and host of this episode, Elyas Felfoul, as he explores with Dina why language matters in shaping economic destiny, how growth markets can take agency over their own development, and what it really takes to build innovation ecosystems that serve local needs while competing globally.
Dina, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming to MIT.
So you lead the Legatum Entrepreneurship and Development Center.
Soon to be the Kuo Sharper Center for
Do you
Prosperity
want to start with this? Because I was going to ask you this at the end, but yeah, sure, we can.
No, we can.
You can tell me. You can tell me what's. So what's the center and why we're changing the name?
The center started in 2007 by a man named Iqbal Qadir, who was an entrepreneur himself in Bangladesh, and he came to the U.S. and he thought, rightly so, if you look at the United States or if you look at Europe, the reason why they are advanced economies is because the exponential growth of their private sectors, right? The industrialization era of really pushing the economies to grow became very critical to I hate using words like the West and whatever, but I want to say specifically Europe and the United States became very critical to why they are the way they are today, right? I mean, obviously that's a very superficial statement because why they are the way they are today has so many things in the underbelly, right? Colonialization, slavery, so many things that gave them a leg up that was taken from our part of the world, specifically yours and mine, that, we now don't have that ability or that kind of big push up, right? So I would say that Iqbal felt that if we focus on entrepreneurship and innovation and really use that as a core strategy to achieving prosperity that is truly sustainable, that will push our countries to another level, we won't have a need for aid and we won't have a need for all the Bretton Woods institutions of the World Bank and the IMF to come in and say, here's a loan. Now, in order to get this loan, you have to meet these conditions. All these things that were suffocating and continue to suffocate our countries. And the Legatum group had met him and said, we want to back that idea.
Amazing.
Where do we go? And they came to MIT. And MIT said, well, we want to have this center here. And, there are reasons for this because entrepreneurship is very practical, right? It's the application of, you're taking the kind of what you know in your mind and you're applying it to solving challenges on the ground. So the kind of slogan of MIT is mind in hands.
And so the center is based in the U.S.
Center is based in the U.S. And
However,
we do so much work everywhere else.
And the focus is Global South, essentially, or?
You don't use that word.
Yeah. Tell me why.
Because
And
I don't know.
what do you use?
I don't know what it's south of.
Yeah.
Tell me what it's south of.
I don't know. Tell me.
I have no
Why
clue.
people use Global South?
I really don't know. If you want my honest opinion,
Yes.
it's because we like to create visuals.
Yeah.
The north is top,
Yeah.
and the rest of us are on the bottom.
Yeah.
And we all get stuck in that same framing.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that we're developing, emerging, something is lacking. It's like what we have done to women for centuries now under the patriarchy. Somehow women need to be empowered. Somehow they are lacking. Somehow this to keep them exactly where they are. Believing that somebody has to do something for them in order to evolve. And this is all a fallacy. In my opinion, all of these words are being used to keep these markets where people want them, or to keep women where people want them. But that is not accurate, right? I mean, I can, I can show you markets in America that I would, or cities in America that I would consider comparable in terms of development to places where we come from. I mean, let's be honest. I could also show you the same in Europe. It's just that we don't talk about that because nobody wants to say America's poor. Or
so what should we call it? We should agree.
Them,
we should agree
so
today.
We call them growth markets.
Growth markets.
Sometimes, if I really want to be controversial, I'll say majority population markets.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
Facts.
because here's the reality: the majority of the world's GDP growth is happening outside of advanced economies, which are relatively stagnant. Actually, a faculty member at MIT said to me once, he said, "Should we be calling the West stagnated markets?" And I said, "I don't know, man. That's not my domain. But I'm calling the markets that I care about growth markets."
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so in terms of growth rates, you know, the 6 of the fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa now. 6 of them. That's like, you know, in terms of population.
Yeah.
The majority of the world's population is outside of the United States, Europe, Japan, and the countries that are now considered the advanced economies, including Canada. And when we're talking about consumers, you know, I would almost 50% of the world's youth is going to be in Africa right now. In 10 years.
You'll get along with my former dean in Singapore, Mr. Kishore Mahbubani. I don't know if you've been following his work, and especially now that he's with what's happening in the state of the world, he's been very. So essentially, his theory is since 1800, before the industrialized age, the world was between India and China, the world trade, economy.
India, China, and even before that, I would say our part of the world. You know, we come from countries with thousands of years of civilization too.
Yeah, I mean, this go back to history. We're still talking in the last, kind of
2 centuries.
Yeah,
fair.
But essentially, what happened? Europe catch new technology back then and develop their economy very fast, and the rest of the world did not catch. Now actually it's the opposite is happening in places like China or India, and we're gonna get to that. So okay, I have this. I love global growth market. I think I'm gonna start using it.
I think you should.
I'm definitely gonna start using it because I use a lot Global South, and I've been someone who's. Because I'm Canadian, look, I benefited greatly from Canada, and I'm very grateful.
Me too, and also I don't mean to say anything. America is also my country. I love this country for certain. There are things in it that I love. There are things in it that I wish would change.
Yeah, and I think I think we are a generation of a minority group that are trying to bridge between the West and the rest in the sense of. We know both well. We have the understanding of how these places operates, but we also understand there are a huge number of people who aspire to a level of modernization. And again, in the world of Kishore Mahbubani, there's something called, I think Asia have understood modernization without Westernization.
Yes,
and it's such 100%. A powerful concept, you know.
Yes.
Modernization is not necessarily Westernization, and I think we need to let this group of people find their ways to modernize and then find a win-win, way of operating.
But I think there's a reason for that. they were not colonized in the same way, in the same fashion. I don't think anybody was ever colonized in the same fashion as Africa. It just, there's...
So it's very heavy because of that. So people who say, okay, yes, we acknowledge the hard, difficulties of this very, difficult history. How long and I'm playing the advocate.
How long are we going to hold
yeah.
that? I would say until our economies are no longer colonized. It's as simple as that.
All right. 1.2 billion young people in emerging markets will enter the workforce over the next decade. Is the global economy ready to harness their potential or to waste it?
I think that it's still yet to be seen.
I'm scared of this, by the way.
I think we're in a, what they call a transitional moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know how anything is going to turn out because none of us can see the future. But here's what I know. I think that, if you look at what's happening in Asia, if you look at what's happening in South Asia or Southeast Asia and how fast they are running, if you look at, certain countries in Latin America and how quickly they're growing, and if you look at the Arab region and what is happening now and how there are complete industries that are being transformed through technology extremely rapidly. And now if we look at Africa and we see how I think the younger generations are pushing aggressively for change. And if we see how much entrepreneurship is a part of that story everywhere, I think, first and foremost, I think we need to start finding ways to create jobs where they need to be created. And that's, in these countries. But I don't think there's any way that the United States or Europe are going to be able to grow without also absorbing other members of the world into their labor markets. They won't be able to because they're aging. Europe especially, the aging population. They won't have enough of the local population to support their economies. It's not possible.
Stay on this point. I have two comments.
Quickly.
The first one
Yes.
is the demography issue.
Yeah.
The West is heading into an aging population. I mean, specifically, maybe not the USA to the same extent to Europe and Canada, but you take Canada and Europe, there's definitely a crisis coming. And yet, immigration is a hot topic, not healthy, very toxic, hate and love relationship with, if you take Europe, hate and love relationship with North Africa and Africa, which is the normal market to get talents. Is this just a political, toxic topic? But the reality, they have no choice to redesign the immigration kind of pathways. And I'm very passionate about this topic because I do believe that we won't be able to create, at least in the short term of 5 to 10 years, there's no way our economies are going to be able to
absorb the number of
create
people.
the number of jobs that are
Needed.
needed for the number of young people coming to the economy. However, you do have the other thing, and just think about my question from a perspective of, yes, you need, kind of top level skilled workers, but you also, the issues in my view in Europe and Canada is, yes, you need, highly skilled people, but you need more, jobs that AI will not replace in the next 10 to 20 years, which is essentially in the healthcare sector, in the service sector. And these are beautiful jobs, by the way. These are maybe we just need to redesign the salaries and all that, but just very quickly on the demography, what's your sense and how the West versus our countries are going to come to a lot more harmony?
This is such a tough question, Elyas. Oh my God, that wasn't on your list.
It's okay. I'm inspired by this now.
I don't know. I mean, if you're asking Dina, I think that we have created so many divides in this world that at some point we have to realize it's holding us all back.
Yeah.
And
Nobody's winning right now.
nobody's winning,
Yeah.
right? And we will win when we all come to the realization that we're all human. And I don't know, this nation state that we have created, technology is like not seeing these borders anyway, right? So I don't know. I feel like at some point there needs to be a coming to terms with the fact that we are stronger when we're not creating these divides. You know, what is happening around immigration, which you call toxic, which is fine. I'm happy to use that word.
If you have, I think you like to change terminologies and words.
That's true.
Give me another one.
Toxic works for me right now. It is toxic. I think that one of the reasons why I love America, or one of the reasons why I've always loved America, is because this country was open to so many people from around the world to come here and build a life.
Yeah.
And if you worked hard, you would excel. You know, it was always a meritocracy. The award went to the person who worked hardest. And I'm not sure that America is like that anymore. And I don't know if this is about, you know, the majority population markets, like suddenly really being obvious that these are the majority population markets, and there's a faction of people who will continue to fight against, you know, seeing that there shouldn't be this divide between white people and the rest of the world. Like, we should have moved beyond that. We should have moved beyond that. It should have never been an issue, let's put it that way. But it became an issue for economic reasons, and I believe this wholeheartedly. And I think at this stage, in order for the world to progress and prosper, we have to find our humanity again. And that piece is missing from so many places and so many conversations. But it is core. We have to find our humanity again. And
do we need to go to an extreme scenario to realize that's the only solution?
Yeah, sometimes you have to get to your ugliest point before you can realize that you're going to implode. This is going to lead to an implosion. And, you know, and maybe that's what we need. I don't know. What I do know, though, is that in the meantime, until the world figures itself out, I don't know how, and until maybe somehow we all find ways to tap into our humanity of, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human, and we should all be working together, co-creating, building, supporting. I think until that happens, we as growth markets have no other option but to quickly take agency of our own economies and build, right? You know, I don't say it lightly when you ask me, you know, when will it happen? It won't happen until we take ownership of our economies are still deeply intertwined with the West.
On this note, I'm reading, actually there's a very interesting FT report on markets and the global growth markets. And essentially they're saying, they're talking a lot about the Asia Pacific region as potentially the only region that is really adapting to the current state of the world and taking advantage of these challenges. To the point where it's now the most vital engine of growth in the world.
Yes.
How can continent like Africa or Latin America can learn from the Asia Pacific experience? According to your, these are observations.
You said something that was deeply profound, right? You said somehow they managed to modernize but not Westernize. And I think
that's the.
I think that is
the foundation of
but profound truth.
Yeah.
invested in their people.
And they still operate very well with the West.
100%.
I mean, yeah.
But because they never compromised.
It's like not our region where we have a identity crisis with the West compared to the...
We do, because we're so caught up in global South. Somehow we are inferior.
Mindset.
So, when the white man comes in, we have to somehow be subservient to that. I don't think that's the case in Asia. And I think maybe it's because China was always so big and India was always so big. I don't know. Or maybe because, I ask myself these questions all the time. Why is it that in Asia they were able to retain their culture and their roots and not Westernize? And has that played a role in their ability to economically evolve and prosper in the way that they have? I don't know. Maybe it's that simple. But the reality is, I think maybe as all of us were trying to figure out how to continue to serve the Western markets, they were busy building their own markets. Right? And they were taking technology and readapting it and using it and becoming globally competitive. That's what they were doing, And I think somehow we were stuck in some trap.
Yeah.
Whether it be Latin America or us. I think Latin America's evolving a little bit. And I want to believe that we are too. I actually really believe that. And we do have lessons to learn from Asia, in the sense that we are all different, and that's okay, but we're also all the same. At the end of the day, we're all human, but maybe my culture is slightly different than your culture, but there's beauty in that.
Yeah.
And how can we use that to our strength, right? But I think Africa, in particular, is such a difficult case because
it's 54 countries. It's
not complicated. Most of Africa became politically independent in the 50s and 60s.
That's very recent. Yeah.
It's not that it's recent. It's also that they became politically independent. Their economies remained 100% in service of, right? They continue to be places of extreme extraction. It's not like, Côte d'Ivoire is the largest exporter of cocoa. It's not like it developed its own ability to manufacture cocoa right there where it is being sourced. It's been like how many years? So I think you're right. How long are we going to say, how long can we say that for? We can't say it forever. It's a choice you make. You either make a decision to build your economy and invest in it, and invest in your people and invest in your entrepreneurs, and find your own comparative advantage of how you want to become globally competitive like what China did, or you fall behind. That's as simple as it is at this stage. But with all these people entering the job market, I don't know what we're going to do. It's going to be a big issue. I think this is the largest national security threat that nobody talks about. I really do.
No, I'm an optimistic, generally speaking, but I'm very scared for the next 5 years. When you know the data, when you know the demographic,
what are we going to do?
It's scary. But I'm very also faithful, and I believe in human. There's a genius in all of us that's gonna figure it out.
I think so.
Yeah.
But when, how, and at what consequence? These are the questions that remain open.
Uncertainty is no longer a disruption. It's becoming actually the global economy default states.
Yes, especially these days.
What used to be or seem like a short-term turbulence is now structural. Yeah, the West is suffering from that. How the rest are gonna keep, adapt to these complete new structure? Because
that's where I think we have an edge, right? This is where I do think we have an edge. I'll tell you why.
We were born hustling?
Yes, it's true. If I think of what I have taken from being Egyptian, it's my comfort with uncertainty. It's part of your day-to-day life. And also, chaos is a part as a Cairean, chaos is a part of my day-to-day. You've been to Cairo?
I love Cairo.
Me too.
Yeah.
I derive energy from that chaos. But, I want to tell you, like, when the pandemic hit, I think that so many people in the U.S. could not handle the uncertainty that was thrown.
Same in Canada.
At all of us.
Same in Canada. Yeah.
But emerging market entrepreneurs were resilient, and look at the Arab region, what happened during the pandemic. E-commerce exploded. Fintech exploded. It opened up new markets. E-commerce was already exploding by then, but then it just full force. But fintech also, it just exploded during the pandemic because you needed payment solutions, right? And also people needed to find access to being able to move money around.
And it's one of the ways maybe to also reduce corruption when
in a world that was shut down. So I would say that, in places like Africa and the Arab region and Latin America and in many cases, I would say even in Southeast Asia, the pandemic was extremely hard. I don't want to say it was easy. It was not, because a lot of our populations didn't have the luxury of stay at home and don't move because they had to eat, right? So ultimately, a lot of death happened in these countries. But at the same time, nobody skipped a beat. They were just like, okay, how do we pivot? What do we do? How do we move on? Our entrepreneurs I think that there were a lot of entrepreneurs who showed resilience that we did not see here. So yeah, there's a lot changing, and the United States is changing a lot of things. We see markets going up, we see markets going down, and this may be very unsettling. Of course it's unsettling, but I would argue that I bet you it's not as unsettling as you think for your average everyday Tunisian or Nigerian or Indonesian, During the pandemic, I mean, Grab in Indonesia used that entire pandemic. Their model just, so many things were added, right? Not that it was easy, but they took the difficult situation and they moved with it. And I think that has become a part of our DNA.
So now you led the center for 6 years. You're having a major change. You're celebrating, actually. What part of the event is also the celebration of this transition. Yeah. What are the top priority for this kind of new phase of the center?
Yeah.
And with all this geopolitical / technology disruption, how the center can play a role into all these beautiful ideas you mentioned?
I think the center, at this stage, growth and expansion is top of mind for us as a team and for our new donor, Sayuri. I think our message is unchanged. Prosperity through entrepreneurship and innovation is critical to developing any economy in a way that is globally competitive. And I think part of our job, being based here at MIT, is to remove some of the fear around advanced technologies that exist, but rather to really work with policymakers to understand that artificial intelligence is going to change our lives, but you need to decide how you're going to use it to your own advantage, right? Because it's not like we haven't seen countries use technology to leapfrog before. It's very possible. You need to just decide. I mean, AI, yes, will jobs be lost because of artificial intelligence? Yes. But do I think it's going to be to the extent that people think? No, because I think AI is a tool, and I think it's going to create more efficiency, but I think there are a lot of areas where you can't remove the human from it, but you can make the human way more efficient. using AI. And I think that can lead to a lot of growth that if we allow ourselves to really understand, we can use that to completely transform some of the systems that are really struggling, whether that be education, whether that be healthcare, whether that be agriculture, specifically agriculture. And, you know, I think that because of where we are, we have an obligation to also take the best and brightest that MIT has in terms of those who are at the forefront of some of these technologies and allow them to have relevant conversations with the endless policymakers who are struggling. Struggling because they also, what has happened is we haven't invested in our universities the way that we should have. So, you know, education, and you know this, you've been fighting for this. Education is lagging behind and we want it to jump forward. And AI can help with that too, right? It's just a matter of, are we ready to embrace it and define what it's going to mean for us? And that could mean something different to Qatar. It could mean something different to Egypt. It could mean something different to India. It could mean something different to the United States. We have to decide. People have to decide. Technology is a tool. How you use it matters.
Are you confident that between the policy makers and the entrepreneurs, where is the gap between this kind of? I feel there's a silo. There's still a silo
between entrepreneurs
is
and
for example, your
policymakers.
center trying to in a, you know, even in a small context, are you playing the role of, you know, bringing together the policymakers versus the private sector versus the public sector? And
Well, why don't you answer that question for me after you attend our conference?
I will. Okay, I will.
And
Give
tell me if
give me a
we've been-
version now.
If we've been able to bring...
Yeah.
Yes, I think...
There's a
you know,
beautiful
so
diversity.
ultimately our goal is to say we want entrepreneurs, we want policymakers, we want big corporates, we want investors, and we want, who am I missing? Universities. We want all of them represented in these conversations because ecosystems need these 5 stakeholders.
Yeah.
Right, to see really strong innovation ecosystems, we need these stakeholders, but we need to see more conversations amongst them, and we need them to see that these stakeholders need to be interconnected. Like universities can't be divorced from what is happening in the market. They just cannot be, because ultimately they are serving, you know.
Yeah, we're teaching a generation that is completely disconnected from the need of the market.
Great.
And unfortunately, that's the state
and
of
if
education.
you go to like big corporates, in you know, actually I don't even say if you ask any, like I'm sure you've heard this. You ask entrepreneurs, they'll say we don't have the talent. We don't have talent. I think we have talent. Do we have the kind of talent that we need? Not always. Can this be fixed?
I mean, most of the entrepreneurs I speak with today, I take the case of Tunis or even Egypt. A lot of folks operate in London, for example, but their offices is in Tunis or...
Because it's cheaper.
No, but not only cheaper. Yes, cheaper is one consideration, but also because there's a talent.
Well,
there's a talent pool.
And talent is cheaper.
And it's cheaper, of course.
Right? But... yeah, I mean, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who will say, yeah, talent is cheaper. But then I struggle with, you know, is it the best talent? Am I getting the best talent? I don't know. I don't know the answers to all these questions. I think that there's talent. Do I think it's being utilized properly? No. But do I think universities are doing what they should be? No, I don't think that either.
So if you have, and we're gonna finish on this note, if you have few advices for you know, young people aspiring to become entrepreneur from our region, what are the kind of Dina's wisdom you would want to share? And considering the current state of the world, and considering where the world is
right now. Well, I mean, first of all, I say this, and I say it over and over again, and I will continue to say it no matter how good the circumstances are or how bad the circumstances are. I would say it to an American entrepreneur. I would say it to an Egyptian entrepreneur. I would say it to anybody who's trying to take this path. if you are not in love with the problem you are trying to solve and deeply passionate about it, don't bother being an entrepreneur. If you're doing it because you want to follow the, fad of entrepreneurship is sexy, don't do it. If you are not ready to stomach the difficulties of building a venture, or being attacked, or having to pivot, or having to deal with uncertainty, don't do it. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted.
Yep, yeah.
It really isn't. And you really have to have thick skin, but you also have to have a willingness to embrace change, right? Really embrace change. So I would say if you are passionate about a particular problem, and so passionate that nothing will stop you until you solve it, then go ahead. And if you are ready to embrace the fact that change is going to be your constant, because, as you grow and evolve, you're going to constantly have to pivot and make changes and deal with uncertainty, then go ahead. If you're ready to do that, then go ahead. And if you're ready to also know that as an entrepreneur in a growth market, you need to be able to understand what is happening in your country from a macroeconomic perspective. You need to be able to engage with policy and policy advocacy, because innovation-driven entrepreneurs in particular in any of our countries are very likely going to have to see new regulations in order for their ventures to thrive. Yeah, if you can feel you're ready for all of that, then definitely go for it.
Go for it, yeah.
But I would say that, with the exception of the regulatory piece, I would say that to any entrepreneur anywhere. And I think this is really confined to the tech innovation-driven entrepreneurs, not to your more traditional SME, because that's a different kind of, it requires different ingredients, equally important, but different ingredients.
I really love this. I find it humble and straight to the point. And I think we're coming to the end of our conversation, but there's so many things that I would have loved to touch upon.
I'm so sad. I thought we were just getting started.
You're busy. You have a conference to run, right? You have a big 3 days ahead of us, and but I would love, maybe we can do another episode where we can touch upon the investment, the VC scene, where all of this heading, and
we'll do another one.
But that was a great conversation. I really, really enjoyed it.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you. You made my day.